I feel like there have been leaks and rumors about this. Well, I mean, I not think I know for like the past like 8 months, and then every 2 months the release date. Oh, now it's going to launch then, and now I've seen other people say, and I've also been told this is actually a widely circulated thing, that 50 Super has a placeholder release date of Q3 in 2026. Do you think it's going to come out? Because that's so far away. That's so weird that they're just like, oh, we're just delaying this a year.
Yeah, especially considering from what I remember about the leaks is that it was like primarily going to be video memory increases, right? That was one of the biggest elements, which makes me pretty skeptical because, well, there is no RAM. So how are they going to put more in? Like I think Nvidia again is just, any excuse to allocate less foundry space to gamers is good for them. I don't know how much they care to service this market with the Super, because the initial leaks, when were we kind of expecting them to come out?
I know people that had like kind of small briefings about them. I want to say middle of this year, or maybe even the first half somewhere in there, as they were like little whispers. Because I remember, because I was like surprised. I think it was like late Q2, if I remember right, or something. Like, it felt like Blackwell had just come out, probably because it did just come out. And I was like, really? They're already playing around with Super? That must mean sales, at least in do-it-yourself, are pretty bad if they're already playing around with this idea. And then it was like, yeah, it should be late this year. I mean, I knew someone that had a presentation where it was like, it's set in it Q4. And then a month later, that was delayed. And then a week after that, it was widely circulated that if anything, it will launch at the end of 2026. So that's the rumors. That's what's been going on behind the scenes. Honestly, the way I read into Q3 is I've also heard from like people in NAND and RAM manufacturing that they think things will get better for supply around then. I think Nvidia may have just forecasted this is when there might be RAM, and so that's when it might come out, but they don't really know if they want to launch it or not,
Yeah, that's a really good point. If that's the forecast for kind of like when memory is going to stabilize, like did they say why they thought memory was going to stabilize then?
Oh God, I think there was a few reasons. So it's worth pointing out. I believe all of them. I've covered this in a few pieces, but the major RAM manufacturers, Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron, they're building out at a breakneck pace right now. New manufacturing facilities. So I believe by late next year, some of those will be online. So there's a bit of that going on, but otherwise, I don't know. I don't know that I have more details than the obvious stuff that's already public, which is, well, they'll literally have more factories then. But outside of that, the vibe I get is it's like all hands on deck for AI right now, especially after OpenAI bought up all of the world's RAM. And I think they just kind of forecast that they might have met their customers' demands by then, and then they can maybe switch to some other things. I think that's also, if I had to guess, I believe that's also maybe when the new Samsung Nvidia joint factory for HBM4 might be done, or around there. Someone's probably gonna write in the comments I'm off by a year or whatever, but what I would say is that's gonna become more of a thing pretty soon. And so maybe they're like, yeah, this is when we're going to make more RAM for GDDR7 and stuff, because we're already 2 generations ahead manufacturing this other stuff. So now we can give this to gamers. But that's probably the best way I could put it. But that's just what they all say. They all say late next year.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because I have read an article about how, and I think it might be SK Hynix, was saying that they are very cautious to build out extra factory supply because they're scared of overcompensating for the overcompensating supply here. There was this like cycle of RAM pricing where during COVID, the like memory prices went up a lot because there was this huge chip shortage. And then in response, all of these companies like SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron massively increased their supply to meet that demand, which then vanished pretty quickly. So then suddenly RAM prices just tumbled, and they were stuck with a massive supply of RAM that they didn't have anybody to sell it to. So all of their stock prices went down, and it was really bad for these companies.
What I would also say is that there might not be an ability to build out more RAM for some of these companies because they've kind of maxed out all tooling already to buy up all the RAM. So anything else would require like new factories to make the new factories. And if you're going to do that, that's like 4 years away, and the shortage will probably be over. And I recently had on Broken Silicon a RAM executive, a memory executive. He's had leadership positions at Micron, AMD, a bunch of different places. And he said that he really does think this will be over by late. Again, when I say over by late next year, I kind of mean like how the GPU shortage was over by the end of 2022. It's not perfect, but like generally speaking, things were half the price they were the previous year. Just not a third yet.
Yeah. I mean, that was my prediction at the end of my video, talking about the incoming GPU shortage that I think is going to happen because like Nvidia themselves said that they were cutting their supply of gaming GPUs by 40% or whatever. The data center build out is going to slow down a lot because, well, it's this whole thing seems really precarious. I mean, I'm sure everybody's got their own theories on it, but when that kind of slows down a lot, it should help stabilize prices. So I think like end of next year for RAM prices sounds reasonable.
Eventually, we're supposed to be using the AI. So that's another argument I have, is that I think something's going to have to give. Either you're going to successfully build the AI or you're not. If you're not, prices come down. If you are, you need to make the devices that people would use to use your AI. And that's when you're not building it. It's you got to do the they will come part of it, Yeah, no,
that's true.
Actually, on that note, one thing to put a bow on the super discussion is recently, and I hope I'm not misremembering this, but I heard that there could possibly be a super laptop series. And if there is, Q3 also makes sense because that would be back to school. That might also be when we first start seeing, good availability of Panther Lake, which would pair with those laptop GPUs, or possibly early Zen 6 stuff. Like, I think there's a chance, too, that Nvidia has kind of given up on really caring about the do-it-yourself super aspect and is more like, well, we're going to hold this for back to school when we can market all of our super AI laptops, So I think that's also plausibly why we might still see super.
Your argument about the super laptop actually sounds pretty compelling. If they because the thing is, like, like you said, the kind of base Blackwell CPUs, the 50 series, like it just came out, right? It's not been that long since these GPUs came onto the market. So having a laptop refresh kind of end of next year sounds more plausible to me than like a desktop one.
Like, you can make the argument that, like, oh, well, they need all of this RAM for AI, and that's why they won't launch Super. Yes, or they might launch Super so they don't have to use even more RAM for the RTX 6000 series. Like, maybe that's also why it's delayed, is they're also delaying the 6000 series to like the end of 27 or something. And so it makes sense to have something in the meantime that's mostly for laptop. But, there will be the hardware unboxed review and you can't buy it on Newegg or something probably as well, would be my guess.
Yeah. So we get we get a 5070 Super instead of a 60 series. That would be
instead
cool.
Of a 60 series sooner rather than later.
Yeah. No, that is the thing, right? It would be pretty easy for them because it's not a massive refresh. It's just some more video memory. So they could potentially like change their mind at some point. They'd be like, oh yeah, this is a good way to delay stuff. Yeah, that makes sense too.
This piece of content is brought to you by CDkeyoffer.com. Believe it or not, what you are looking at is my co-host Dan putting together his current Zen 4 desktop almost exactly a year ago. Of course, that code for Windows 11 came from CDkeyoffer.com. And we've been using CDkeyoffer.com at Moore's Law Z for a very long time. I use it for my office software on both my desktop and my laptop. And that's because they're reliable. They've always been there for us. And they offer reasonable prices for Microsoft products that are usually set, in my opinion, at monopolistic pricing. And you know, they're actually having a Christmas super sale right now. So if you're looking to get the best pricing on Microsoft software or games or other products on their website as well, please show support for a company that's shown support for the Moore's Law is Dead team and community for years by using offer code BrokenSilicon to get 25% off all Microsoft software and DieShrink to get 3% off everything else. So support Moore's Law is Dead by checking out CDkeyoffer.com today.